excitement. Right here. Right here on TRAXXfm.
It is 6:24 p.m. That's right. Kong Yu with you since 2 p.m. today, bringing you a budget special, of course, with the unveiling and tabling of Budget 2022 in Parliament. That's right. Just had that presentation by our Finance Minister. Of course, if you were tuning in continuously, we also had a 10-minute brief roundup of the key parts or key components of the budget during the special news bulletin as well. Yeah. So now about to launch into our conversation with my two special guests today. Right, I have with me since 3 p.m. Yeen, founder and chief executive officer of the Center for Research, Advisory and Technology, CREATE, and also associate professor Nuradli, Ridzwan, Shah, Dali from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia, USIM, with me, continuing our discussion right now, and of course getting the reactions of my two guests today on the budget. Yeah, so thank you so much for being with us, lady and gentlemen. And yeah, we're going to get right into things and some key parts or key information of the budget. First of all, because it's themed Keluarga Malaysia Makmur Sejahtera, right, allocating 332.1 billion total, right, of which of 233.5 goes to the operating side of things, 75.6 development allocation for development purposes, right, and much more. So let's talk about those first, okay? The key figures. Talked about expecting a bigger budget, so this also being the biggest ever, if I'm not mistaken, right? So any reactions on that? Also on the allocations, OPEX versus CAPEX. Prof?
Okay. Yeah, just now we have actually discussed about our expectation about the budget. So we say that it is around 300 to 350, right?
Right.
But it actually went up to 332. So it's wow in terms of that, because it's the biggest, right? It's actually higher than previous year.
That's right.
Right, so that's it.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be larger than that.
Slightly larger, right?
That's correct. Yeah, maybe a little bit closer to the top range of 350, but this is about 332. It is the largest ever. And I guess at the end of the day, we do still want to be a bit conservative in terms of our debt ratio and things like that, right? Yeen, any thoughts on the numbers per se?
I think the potential growth that we are looking at is also almost about the same, like what we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
But one thing that, I mean, we haven't gotten, and in fact we haven't gotten the time to actually do the calculation on the
That's right.
the percentage breakdown and all that.
Yep.
But looking at the way, you remember during the pre-budget conversations that we had, we spoke about the need to create jobs, right?
Yes.
Create jobs as part of the recovery plan to bring unemployment down to, pre-COVID time, which is about 4%, and that was exactly what the minister have said earlier. But and one thing that's consistent that we saw is that government is really creating jobs of up to 600,000 of them. So and if I remember screening this through very quickly, is that I think within the public sector, within the GLCs, the government is creating jobs among those two sectors.
Yeah, we talked about, I think, 4.8 billion allocated to actually this job creation of 600,000 opportunities, like you mentioned, right? So that's a good sign there.
So that would mean that more emoluments, maybe more expenditure. So what we want, we really want to see what kind of jobs are being created apart from those that will be created by the private sector. And we have to remember that the private sector, when the market comes back, when the economy becomes better, it is natural to have to employ more people from the private market, and also the multiple incentive like the salary subsidies that the government is offering to private sectors who are recruiting from the unemployment.
Tourism.
No, it doesn't need to be. It covers across many industries. So that part will definitely encourage employment from the unemployed unemployed community. But what I'm more interested is the 80,000 more civil servants positions within the public sector that will be created. It's something that we should look at, because I remember there were many conversations about our very heavy public servants community that we have, right? And the introduction of another 80,000 and more within the GLC. It's something that we would like to see. So let's see what are the meaningful job opportunities that will be offered to our fresh graduates or for the unemployed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it really it will again boils down to the actual details,
Yeah.
of the placement and within which GLCs and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That aside, of course, 23 billion that's allocated to still handling COVID per se.
Half of the budget from the Ministry of Health will go to COVID expenditure, of which half goes to procurement of vaccine and the other half would be on the PPEs and the immediate expenditure to protect the frontliners.
That's right.
So that's quite a fat one.
That's quite a fat one, I could say.
Yeah.
Any particular thoughts on the... We spoke... You mentioned as well the importance of the allocation towards the development side of things, and even you said infrastructure when it comes to health, right? So I don't think we particularly had any.
Not much details.
Details on that.
But I think it's supposed to be in the
Ministry punya budget.
The nation plan, 12 nation plan should be there lah. We should have more hospitals. Okay, we have to build more hospital in certain places. So, but this budget there is none about the development of hospital. It's more on procurement. And
half of it goes to development, but the details are not given.
Whether it's on new hospitals out in rural areas or
upgrading.
That's right. We're not sure about those details. But overall, of course, they say health is greatest wealth of all. So naturally, quite a lot of resources will go there. Education continues to take the biggest chunk, right? 52.6 billion allocated.
16%. No, 6%, is it? How many percent?
16, I believe.
16% of the budget. But one thing that I would like to know is that I remember last year we also have allocated a large amount of funds to upgrade the dilapidated school, and I saw exactly the same thing that need to be done. So I wonder whether we carried forward what was being allocated last year, but not done due to COVID, because there's no renovation construction allowed. Therefore, it has been carried forward to this year and it appeared again in the budget. But however, if upgrading work for schools were being done last year and whatever over the last 18 months, then it will be interesting for us to see how many dilapidated schools in Malaysia that needs to be fixed. Otherwise, it keeps popping up in every budget, every year's budget.
I have a feeling it is more towards the former because, like we were saying, we didn't foresee this third wave. Right, which really closed down a lot of Malaysia, so it could be probably that was allocated for last year per se on that perspective. But then again, education, does and take up the main chunk of the budget as it has been. And I also want to touch about the 3 points, the three main sections, shall we say, of the budget, which is basically on protecting the rakyat's well-being overall, of course, in keeping businesses resilient, which is also super important, and keeping the economy as prosperous as possible. Quite a challenge in the balancing of it all, right? And also, one thing that struck me, I'm not sure, because, in terms of maybe the numbers, and you mentioned tourism, right, Prof? 1.6 billion, I think, that was allocated to tourism per se. Is that enough? I can't quantify that number. To me, it seems it's not as sizable as it can be.
Okay, basically, if you look at tourism, that 1.6, I'm not really sure about that.
Right.
There are, 4 initiatives in the tourism, which is the wage subsidy, right? And then you have this special financing for the tourism industry, and also I think 3, right? So and then the special assistance for the tourism, right? So 1.6 billion is about 1,600 million, right? So I think it's quite reasonable, okay? Because if we look at 2020 projected, what call it, income from tourism is about 100 billion. 100 billion, right? So they are trying to spend about 1.6 billion, okay, to get about 100 billion is, I think it's quite relatively small, but at least there are some the budget is being allocated.
For sure, yeah. It struck me as, in my layperson's perspective, like, oh, okay, I thought it would be bigger. I think it's 600 million towards aids per se, financial aids and things like that. And this is interesting, 50 million towards improving infrastructure of tourism per se.
Oh, yeah. That one is for...
Yeah, to upgrade sites and destinations. So...
Right.
The devils is always in the details. We really don't know.
Yeah.
So
again, we speak about the context of how we need to reposition, right?
Yes.
So obviously, a lot of it has to do with infrastrument investment.
Yes.
That will be
upgrading of what we have, upgrading of the tourism product that
That's
we have.
right.
Yeah. Because but this they are going to give it in terms of grants, right?
The grant is the matching grant for boutique hotels and all that for them to upgrade their rooms and their premises. But this one is another 50 million to upgrade the infrastructure of that particular site.
That's right.
Itself.
Yeah.
So we don't know how many qualify for this upgrading grant.
And it's really interesting because I really feel that the point that you had, which is basically how to reposition all of this, but of course it would involve infrastructure reinvestment costs, upgrading costs, and all that. But more importantly, it's the task of doing that,
Yeah.
You know, you upgrade it, but it has to be with the purpose of how you reposition it, and remarket it.
Yeah, and you look at number 6 of tourism, to give, to give matching grant to companies which will organize arts and culture related programs. So 50 million ringgit matching grant. What does that mean? Yeah, because for companies to do that, under what circumstances would a matching grant be relevant?
Be issued.
Yeah, because because it's a company doing that. You see, it's not government or agencies doing that. So, yeah.
So this is a one-to-one grant, or we don't know what is the detail. The detail is not there.
Yeah, no detail. It's just say matching grant. Yeah, how they match.
It can be one-to-one grant, or maybe it can be to 50% or whatever. Right? So we don't know.
There are a lot of we don't know kind of thing in the tourism industry. Yeah, because there's no details.
Right. Overall, 40 billion dedicated to reviving businesses and also, keeping businesses as resilient as possible within the context of a prosperous economy. All these crossed our purposes, right? Any particular thoughts on that? I've heard because 1.8 billion allocated to informal or micro businesses. This is in terms of loans. Right, 0% up to 1 year of for repayment. This is small business loans for the micro businesses or informal businesses.
The up to 10,000, 35,000, right?
That's right. Micro. So for anybody who would like to just jump on board and start their own small scale business.
You see, that is the danger. Because of a grant, you start something because you want a grant. Then, from a business perspective, that we need to see whether that particular business is sustainable or
even viable in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
So again, the devil is in the details. We don't know what is the qualifying requirement or policies that the government will put in to govern the giving out of such aid.
Yeah, interesting. It's going to be. It is a nice effort, right? Because it does give people that whole idea of you can do a side gig. I guess the key fundamentals are you got to choose your side gig properly.
Yes, and I would call this a micro credit or micro financing for small business. But again, I really wouldn't want to see this microfinance to help or to save smaller businesses will turn into bad debt, and the government will have to write it off.
We need to see that, okay, because one of the initiative is through Tekun, okay, and then they are using debt financing. What I want to propose, okay, if Tekun actually can look into is partnership base. We call it the diminishing partnership, which means that you provide capital to the entrepreneurs, and at the end of the you are in the, we call it JV lah. You do a JV with the small businesses, and the businesses will actually pay their capital, okay, the part of the capital from day one until the end of the tenure, and then at the end of the day, okay, the business will have 100% capital, right? So that is actually another way.
Definitely, that would be the ideal.
Of
to pay back, to get repayment.
To get repayment, yeah. But that is actually different from that base. It's actually equity base, right? Equity base. It's just like stock market lah, but it's for smaller, what you call it,
ownership.
Yeah.
But you see, I think if we want to compare the SMEs and SMIs with the public listed, I think we are actually not comparing apple to apple, because we know that the requirements,
I'm just giving the analogy,
the governance of a public listed and the smaller mom and pop shop is very different.
Yep. Speaking of which, right? I mean, did you both notice any particular? I mean, I may have missed it. Like we're talking about even micro businesses here, right? Financing for anybody to in a way get involved in a side gig economy, as long as again we choose wisely. That is very important, right? For SMEs per se, right, in terms of allocations and incentives, right, was there a main emphasis on this, or was it sort of scattered all over, depending on which industries we're talking about? I didn't pick up on much of that.
For SMEs, I think in terms of the second initiative, for the financing,
it would have fallen under. So I did not actually manage to, like I said, from the presentation just now, pick up on an emphasis on SMEs per se, other than micro and
it's not heavy.
Exactly.
There's no heavy emphasis on that, but we see a bit more focus has been given to the e-commerce space. People who work in the informal sector, being able to also take up a loan or qualify to apply for housing loan and things like that, and the government will guarantee it. So of course all this will be higher fiscal risk, seriously, if I take on the very conservative banking position. But I guess what the government also would like to do is to also ensure that the developers and people in the construction industry get to also get back on their feet, because they have also been affected very badly during the pandemic. But I think we have to be very careful, because the last thing that we want is to ensure the development and construction industry to prosper, but then on the other hand, we qualify people who shouldn't qualify, because we want to promote home ownership. In the name of some other reasons and justification, we open up a floodgate for for the country to bear a higher fiscal risk. That's something that I think we should be quite careful.
Right.
I think it's here, okay. As you know, that it actually doesn't mention the SMEs, but if you look at the second initiative on empowering the business, right? So it's under financing and also alternative financing, right? So there are about 14 billion. Okay, 14.2 billion ringgit is actually accessible for the SMEs, and also for SMEs also, I think Initiative 3, okay, for guarantees on financing. So basically, business, they want to do business, and then, for example, they use trade letter of credit or whatever, so they have to have these guarantees, right? So there are also guarantees, okay, from SJPP. Okay, this is about 10 billion, right? 10 billion. So I think there are some of it for SMEs, and also for micros, okay, and also really interesting is for public listed also. Public listed companies also, they have this, what I call it, the 3 billion, right? 3 billion in what's the
3 billion it's actually to
equity financing.
No, it's called a JV equity, by one of the GLC or government will come in and bail you out or help you with your cash flow, whatever, and then it becomes part JV.
You look at it as, then the part ownership, right? So I guess there's incentive for that, just to be fair across the board.
But really 3 billion for the entire public listed company.
Exactly.
Like everybody on Bursa is actually very small.
Yeah, it's just that, let's not forget that we've got the public listed companies as well. It's more in that field.
I think the budget trying to be comprehensive.
That's right, and also,
and inclusive.
That's right. And again, the bulk of the portion, thanks for pulling that out, right, Prof, it should be going to the SMEs or even smaller scale businesses per se.
But maybe what the government is saying is that, it's all about balance and who you want to build first when you have limited resources, right? So perhaps the public listed company would have a larger trickling down effect and impact towards the greater society and economy. Therefore, more assistance will be given to that sector that will potentially affect more people, because certainly a public listed company will employ more people. So they provide jobs. So we have to first protect the business, then we can protect jobs and protect the people.
Yes.
So maybe that is the approach.
Yes, and that brings up something else, though. I guess I'll bring it up now. That was revealed towards the end of the presentation, the prosperity tax. Now, I'm not so familiar. I'm not familiar with actual amounts which are currently existing, right? Now, this Cukai Makmur, right, is going to be imposed on companies bringing in revenue. Revenue, is it profit or revenue?
Profit.
Profit. No. One second.
Profit.
Cukai pendapatan. Profit. Pendapatan, not revenue.
No. Revenue is the sales. Okay. Revenue is sales.
So you get 24%
of above 100 million, right? Okay, and then you'll be taxed at 24%. And then for anything above, I believe it's 33%.
But what does it mean actually?
This is actually one-off. For example, we can call it a windfall tax.
But it's different, right?
Okay.
No, sorry, Prof. Can I seek clarification? So it says that sehingga 100 juta. Okay. So anything
below
then you are not taxed 20.
From where to where? So if the first threshold is 100 million, so from where to 100 million you get 24%?
So should be for the first 100 ringgit.
No,
100 million. So the first for 101 million, the 1 million will be taxed. Okay, will be taxed
24%. Yeah. So anything below 100 million is
still the same.
Is falling under the normal taxes.
Normal tax.
And anything above 100 million will.
It's supposed. Because ringgit pertama.
So the first 100 million.
No, the ringgit pertama after 100 million.
Okay, then where does the 33 fall?
No, Prof, you see, sehingga 100 juta ringgit pertama. So that means the first 100 million.
Okay, sehingga 100 juta. Okay.
Akan dikenakan
this is
4%.
We need to this.
So meaning to say, if my company makes 5 million, I'm going to get 24% tax. That's very high.
Okay.
That's a big jump,
All right, so
it almost where is the minimum threshold? It's not specifically spelled out, right?
100 juta pertama.
That's the thing. Okay. Well, that's going to be something interesting for us to look into, because it does make a difference whether
first 100 million.
Anybody who makes above a certain amount.
We need to understand what is that this statement means.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can't say anything right now. Sehingga 100 juta pertama pendapatan cukai sehingga 100 juta.
So this is why I suggest we will have to KIV it because of the
otherwise we'll start fighting.
We can make clarity out of the text, but this to me coming towards the end of the presentation, and also to business owners generally comes to me as like, okay, I'm not sure how people will take to it.
Well, I think for smaller businesses or even business as a whole, if you want to recruit, hire more people, then the government is really giving incentive this time around. Because if you hire from the unemployed pool of people, but of course, I don't know what is the definition of unemployment, maybe 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, then you qualify to be part of that. So if let's say I recruit 10 people from the unemployed group or whatever amount, then I actually qualify for salary subsidies of 6 months to 12 months. So it goes in tiered percentage, which can make things quite attractive. And for example, for interns as well, interns coming from the higher education sector, as long as they are below 30 years old, they are a full-time student in an institution, so I can also hire them and I get salary subsidy from the government of up to 900 ringgit. And this is really, really very interesting and attractive, because in the past, one of the challenge for smaller companies to hire interns is that, one, of course, if you're just a student, you may not be as savvy, so the rate of internship recruitment is not as high as we would hope for. But then with this salary subsidy, then I'm sure it will also encourage the private sector to give more opportunity to younger people to learn, some hands-on experience while they are still in university.
Right.
Yeah.
So it allows that.
It allows for that.
It enables for that. So it really now is in the hands of the actual company itself.
Okay, I think I understand what your statement means about the 24% tax. Okay, basically until 100 million, it's still the same 24%. Because previously was also is also 24%
corporate tax
24%. So above 100 million, for which is 101 million and 1 ringgit, that 1 ringgit will be taxed at 33%.
Right.
Okay.
So the actual additional tax is really on the anything that's above 100 million.
100 million, yeah.
In terms
What
of
about the paid up capital part, the 2.5 million paid up? I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, we'll need to KRV that.
Okay,
That's right.
we'll ask some tax advisors.
Yeah, that's right. We'll need to KRV that for now. Yeah.
Something interesting. I'd like to just point out.
Go ahead.
RPGT.
Yeah.
So the RPGT that everybody hates. Yeah. So if you sell your house after the 5th year, then you won't get the real property gain tax. I think that's a good news for a lot of homeowners who would like to sell and then buy a new one. So we should see some liquidity in the market, in the secondary market.
I think that's the key. I mean, we just need to have some liquidity overall.
Well, that's the point of investment, right?
Yeah.
If I buy something at $1 million today and I sell it 6 years later, if I sell at 1.2 million, I merely get 20% increase in my investment. So if that also have to be taxed, then nobody would want to be investing in the property sector.
Right. And that also, like I said, the key is to get some liquidity going in the property sector, which has been so stagnating for the past 2-3 years. Yeah. Yes. Liquidity based, not in terms of value or anything per se.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah.
So good news.
Good news lah. So anybody who want to buy a car, sales tax has been continued to be taken away. Because this year also no sales tax
for CBD.
For CBD.
CBD for 100% for CBD.
No CBD. CKD.
Yeah. That just makes things easier lah.
Then 50% for the fully imported.
That's right. For car ownership overall, right?
Exactly. But however, if you buy an EV, you get more promo.
Yes.
So you don't have like sales tax. I think road tax also have like either it's free or something.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about the actual maintenance. I mean, they always say people EVs,
But you also get subsidies on the battery. Which is quite interesting.
You look like you're targeting an EV.
No, I'm just saying.
Targeting for shopping.
But that's something that, keeps things going.
Just EV. Maybe Yeen is targeting a new car overall. Now, there's a business traveler center thing. I know it's not on the total amount of allocation to, I guess, to convert a place to the business traveler center. In terms of the numbers there, they're not that big, but I think it's an interesting initiative, right?
Yeah.
So they're putting in one up in KLA, and then one in Johor, I believe, right? So that it enables. I don't know how they're going to manage it because no quarantine for certain business travelers.
They want to solve the problem of quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay, for people to meet, right?
To meet.
So I believe that we are not the locals, but the international business travelers.
For sure, but are they going to be there then?
They aren't going to be there. For example,
they would have to be in that area, and they can only do business there.
A businessman from Indonesia and also a businessman from Vietnam, they come to KLIA
and they meet there.
They meet there, do meeting, then they go back without quarantine.
Singapore does that.
Okay.
Yeah, they call it a green zone or something. So you cannot leave that zone.
I like that because it just makes things practical.
Yeah.
Right, without having to go through the 10 days quarantine, let's say, or 14 days, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a small thing, but I think this is where we're talking about making things practical. We spoke a lot about that during the pre-budget discussion, right? Where, a lot of where the issues are just gaps of people getting in touch with each other, the relevant SMEs getting in contact with the right agency to enable whatever it is that needs to be enabled, whether it's transfer technology or maybe sometimes it's just pure financing related issues. So 700 million for Jendela, which is the digitization network initiative, right? Loosely translated. 30 million only, right, to serve the 40 PPR. I mean, I'm specifically thinking about this.
I think that I cannot find which page is that goes under. But we have to remember that we've spent a lot of money to build the One Malaysia Internet Centre. I think this is just an upgrade of the existing centres. Because most of the then Satu Malaysia in Pusat Internet were all being built, almost all of them are actually near a PPR or underneath a PPR lot. Okay. So I can't remember.
Then the question would here be, like, you're talking about
it's an upgrading.
The 30 million is, in your viewpoint, that goes for the upgrading.
It's an upgrading to existing centres.
Okay, but the question is that enough? We're talking about, the big need and the urgent push towards getting Malaysia as connected as possible, so that
all the Pusat Internet have internet.
Okay, but that means it is only applicable to the area that is the PPR per se lah.
Correct.
Right. Okay, then
unless we are building more Pusat Internet, but it's called something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then the allocation towards, or the focus towards the areas which are not under coverage.
I think that is also under Jendela project.
It should be under Jendela, right?
Yeah, the installation of 5G.
5G, it's 700 million that's dedicated towards that.
Yeah.
But
I'm really not sure whether it's coming out from the national budget or it's under a separate MCMC fund that the telco actually pay for under a special tax.
Yeah. So I'm just curious as to whether that is sufficient lah, especially with this urgent push towards getting all things online, right? And of course being able to have people access the internet in the first place is the first major fundamental. Okay, so that's something to think about.
This 600 Pusat Economy Digital, I believe they are the existing Pusat Internet. Yeah.
Okay, interesting thoughts there, So, we covered a few of the key highlights here. Any particular ones that we've not spoken about in the lead up to 7 p.m.? Just about 4 minutes away from now.
Well, I feel that the government are giving recognition to the civil society organizations and the NGOs who have been contributing significantly during the pandemic when the public sector cannot cope with whatever that needs to be done, or when the society needs to be fixed and helped. Therefore, we saw NGOs and civil society getting more space in participating in tenders and then grants for NGOs who are working within the mental health space, within capacity building and all that. So meaning to say, the NGOs will be better funded to do work for the community. That's in a nutshell what I'm trying to say. And I'm actually very happy to see a sizable allocation being given to mental health care. Remember, we spoke about that the mental health fraternity is very much underinvested in this country. And I think this is the first time, if not the second time, we see increased budget to allow people to be able to seek treatment and to recognize if they need help.
Right.
I think that will definitely help or support more people, facilitate more people to want to go and seek help. You see, that's very important.
Interesting thought, right? Any closing observations from you, Prof?
Well, I believe that this is one of the biggest, we call it budget. Okay, when we are looking at, we're trying to overcome the COVID, and also we are trying to make sure that the business community is also moving forward in the economic development, and also to ensure all the socio-economic or demographic of the Malaysian people. I think this is quite comprehensive, but we want to see how it's actually being implemented. Firstly, it need to be passed, it need to be agreed in the parliament. So this is actually like, okay, this is the proposal, right?
Yeah.
Then the parliament will need to pass it, okay. And then another thing is that implementation. Okay, so the implementation stage is very, very crucial.
As always.
So
Yes.
so that it's actually can be delivered, okay, to the people, okay, 100% or maybe 110%, right? So then we will get the benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, and as closing, right? Let's say we're going to rate this. You guys, that's it. On a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of your wowness to it, Yeen.
Wow, I got BM tax. I don't have an English tax.
1 to 10 in terms of how much you have been wowed.
Well, I would say that I can see that the government is really spreading things quite thinly. One thing to note is that the disabled community really have got more things, because
That's right.
that's really I wouldn't call it a sector, but a community that we have forgotten. Yeah.
Aborigines.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Aborigines as well.
We do need to wrap up. So
Yeah.
1 to 10.
1 to 10. I don't know. I can't count today. It's getting late. But anyway, I'll be back on Monday.
Prof?
I think in terms of comprehensive,
Yes.
okay, I can say it's about 8.
Okay.
Really, really comprehensive.
All right.
Trying to go into further, what you call it, I mean,
All the details.
All the details.
That's right. All right. We've ran out of time. Thank you so much to my two guests. I was kind of thinking we may not be speaking so much, but obviously you have a lot of opinions to share. Thank you so much. Yeen, founder and CEO of Create, as well as Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan from USIM, with us right here on a budget special on TRAXXfm. Stay tuned. Lots more to come. Headed your way, including our first right now leading direct into news at 7 p.m. Stay tuned right here on TRAXXfm.
Experience the excitement right here on TRAXXfm.